Hey friends, it's Kels. I am hopping in really quickly to tell you about an opportunity for you to help support this next season of Queer in Alberta. If you've been following along the show for a long time, you know that Queer in Alberta has been funded for the past 3 seasons by TELUS Optic TV, but for season 3, I am attempting to match the funding that TELUS gave me. If you are loving the series and want to help me to continue to chat with and share the stories of 2S LGBTQIA+ Albertans from all across the province, you can do that by going to buymeacoffee.com/queerinalberta. Buy Me a Coffee is a platform that allows creators such as writers, artists, podcasters, and YouTubers to receive support and funding from their fans and followers. If you are able, you can donate however big or small to, again, buymeacoffee.com/queerinalberta. I'd love to be able to keep creating the series and to push the envelope of what is possible. So any donations that you can give are sincerely appreciated. Thank you so much for sticking around and for joining me on this journey. I can't wait to see where we go next. Okay, now to the episode. Go, 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 go.
My name is Saviksha.
My name is Poppy.
It's me, your prairie queen, Francesca Dynamite.
We are Louder Club, and you're watching Queer in Alberta.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Queer in Alberta, the podcast where I talk to 2S LGBTQIA+ Albertans to share their stories. If you are new here, my name is Kels. I am a queer Filipino-Canadian. I use she/her pronouns, and I filmed this series right here on Treaty 7 territory in the city of Lethbridge, Alberta, which is the home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, as well as the Oti-Pimsawak Métis government in the Alberta District Number 1. I'm just going to tiptoe around the fact and possibly ignore the fact that we're a little late with our schedule on sending out this episode. I want to say a really big thank you for you all waiting and being so patient. This Pride Month, I have been telling everybody in reflection that it's felt like the absolute executive gay Super Bowl for me. So many events and speaking engagements and things happening last minute that I did not at all foresee when I was scheduling my June. So my lovely 2-week rollout for the season 2 episodes did not happen for this one. So thank you for being so understanding and just waiting it out with me. That being said, what a wild Pride Month. Event, speech, drag, speaking engagement, boom, 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 one after the other the entire month. And it got to a point where I was an exhausted little bean. I was very, very tired, very burned out. So next year, as much as I want to say yes to everything, this was a 4K in HD real-time lesson on just balance. I was able to do some new collaborations with different orgs in the city that really excite me, like the Filipino-Canadian Association here in Lethbridge. Last episode's guest and superstar Francesca Dynamite had texted me and asked if I would be interested in judging something called Filipinos Got Talent. Which, is that even a question? 100%. I was there to fulfill my Simon Cowell fantasy, but make it biracial Filipino in Lethbridge. Say less. But yeah, I got to see such amazing talent. And for me, what's been so beautiful is finding more Filipino community here in Lethbridge. I've talked about it lots on the show in the past, but so much of me being in Filipino spaces growing up was always with my family. But moving to a new city, I didn't realize how that would be impacted, not having people that recognize you and know you, especially when you're biracial and people have all kinds of ideas about what's Filipino, who's Filipino, fitting in, etc., etc. When I went to do this event, everybody was so welcoming, so excited. The judges panel, we were just kikiing in between sets, and they were really kind, asking me if I spoke Tagalog and excited that I was getting involved. So I'm just so grateful that I got to go and experience that, and I look forward to doing more events with the Filipino-Canadian Association here in Lethbridge in the future. Right after that, the next day, I had actually been invited by Lethbridge Pride Fest to give the speech that traditionally happens when the pride flag is raised at City Hall. I was really, really honored to have been asked, and they wanted me to talk about queer in Alberta, about the folks that I've interviewed, and touch on some of those themes. And while I wanted to do that, it was really important for me with the opportunity to speak to a larger audience, a local audience directly, that I touch on some of the things that are impacting our community as queer people across Alberta with our government. And it felt impossible for me to stand up there and rally in happy pride without also acknowledging and giving the space to what we're seeing in Palestine, in Congo, in Sudan, and other places in the world right now. But what was really interesting to me is when I got there, I've been attending pride flag raisings here in Lethbridge for a few years now. In my memory and in recent memory, this was the first year that we had counter protesters show up. And counter protester is like a bit of a galvanized term because it was two besties kikiing on the corner with their rented speakers and no signs, no dental hygiene. Like, I'm not here to come for anybody's appearance, but it was not giving slay. I was given the opportunity to not give this speech if I didn't feel comfortable. And as much as I appreciated that, I knew that I had to give the speech. I didn't want to let ignorance and bigotry and hatred and misplaced and misguided conceptions about who I am and who my community is stop me from speaking. I didn't want to allow people like that to have the power to take my voice from me. I was getting ready to deliver my speech, and bestie number one in the corner said something like, I think it was almost exactly, "Oh, I can't wait to see what knowledge you have, lady." And if you follow me on Instagram, you have seen this little video that I made of that interaction because honestly, they were not my focus in that moment. I didn't want the hatred and ignorance of these two people on the corner who probably have never bothered to actually talk to a queer person or get to know them. I didn't want that to impact how beautiful it was for community to gather. And I didn't want to give them power when we vastly outnumbered them. So the speech went great. I got some really lovely feedback afterwards and was able to I didn't know I was going to get to do it, but I was able to be the little human. Apparently the speaker or speech giver has the opportunity to raise the pride flag, so I got to do that. Then after that, I did a panel for the BIPOC Foundation, which if you are in Lethbridge, this is a new, I think, non-for-profit or organization that does a lot to amplify BIPOC community, to provide resources and opportunities from a business perspective more so it seems, but they're creating events and safe spaces, and it's really exciting to see here in the community. And then I shit you not, literally right after the BIPOC event, like I'm still having second wave exhaustion from all of this, but right after the BIPOC event, I went to a lesbian drag show, throwback 90s bops, headlined by two amazing kings from Calgary that were down for the Pride weekend. Huge shout out to No Baloney as well as Osmosis. They were asking me to help participate and promote that show, and then I ended up doing a live Q&A, which was just like me on stage in a very bedazzled, slay little outfit that I may or may not put a photo of right now. So yeah, that is the massive update on all things, oh my god, Pride Month Super Bowl. I've already started chatting with a few folks for season 3, and diva, get fucking excited. So with that update out of the way, let's get right into this episode. If you are a lover of drag and you live in Lethbridge, Alberta, then you already know that the monthly Babes and Brews show at Theoretically Brewing Co. is the place to be. Babes and Brews is fronted by 3 queens, Poppy Puffter, Dana Demento, and Brandy Jane. And this episode, we got to talk to one of them, the one and only Poppy Puffter. In this episode, we talk about growing up queer, but closeted and very, very religious. Poppy grew up Catholic and rurally in a small hamlet called Enchant, Alberta. If you don't know where that is, you are forgiven, diva, but Poppy will tell you all about it in the episode. And she'll also tell you about finding yourself through drag, through travel, and specifically month-long, very eat, pray, love experiences, but much better, but much, much better. This is season 2, episode 4 of Queer in Alberta, featuring Babes and Brews' one and only Poppy Puffter.
Honestly, for the entirety of my time in my small town, I think the only things mentioned about gayness was just like how wrong it was.
What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life.
But we have the one, the only, Poppy Puffter. How you doing, love?
Good, great. Very happy to be here.
Now, you were telling me about a wardrobe malfunction before you got here. That's a little bit iconic, I must say.
And embarrassing, I think is the correct word. Yes, my friend actually made me this gorgeous wig that I was very excited to wear because it's like an updo, and I'm not really an updo girly. And it was very obvious because when I tried to get into my truck, the top of the wig hit the truck, fell on the ground.
And here we are.
But yeah, this is a different wig. If you hear it. I decided a hat was also necessary to give it a little bit of volume.
Well, you know what? It's almost like fate was really saying, this is queer in Alberta. Do you know how like just slay it is that you got into your truck with your wig and it fell into the prairies? Like, that's very on brand.
It's true. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I see everything. I see all the possibilities. But yeah, I'm just so in love with this outfit. It's giving me My Fair Lady vibes for sure. And you even got a cute little purse down over there.
Wow. Yeah. I would say, honestly, a lot of my drag consists of like things from friends. Lots of gifts, lots of like friends giving like, hairdos or a friend gave me a breastplate.
Love
it's just
that.
like, very sweet to be able to like have drag that's so focused in community. I would say like it's a lot of like locals supporting local drag, and I love that.
I love that too. And that's a huge part of why I actually wanted to bring you on the show, because there's something about your drag, Poppy. When I see it in person, it's such a celebration of community and like the stories that you tell, there's always a message to it. How did all of this start? Like, it's so amazing to look at. Yeah.
Oh, it started actually. I did like a small little stint in New Brunswick.
Oh, no way.
Because I was obsessed with French and like French people. I think I really wanted to be French.
Okay.
So I went to go and I was teaching English through like a government program. And it was like, gosh, on my 24th birthday, someone had just introduced me to Drag Race.
Oh, slay.
I like went out and bought some makeup and like just like played around in the basement because it was a French community. Didn't really have a lot of friends there. Spent a lot of time in my basement. Spent a lot of time watching Drag Race.
Gay culture, 100%. Basement, Drag Race.
Yes. Yeah. In the deep, dark corners of the basement too. I just felt very troll-esque. But yeah. And it was really bad, I would say. Like, I look back at some of those photos now and I'm like, it's literally like...
you in drag before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like one line... another line, and then a third line, and that's supposed to be like the eyebrow, eyeliner,
This
eyeshadow.
is the eyebrow. I love it.
But yeah, I think that's when I like really got into makeup, which I appreciated because I don't think I really like to be alone. Obsessed with community, need community. So I was like quite grateful for the fact that in this one time in my life that I was very much so alone, it was able to bring out drag, which
that's amazing.
Because it was like quite a miserable time, I would say, in like the full 9 months, but don't regret it because here I am.
Now I want to ask you, I'm like, New Brunswick drag. Yeah. That is something that has not crossed my brain very often. What would you say about New Brunswick drag?
I didn't get to see too much, actually. I think like the drag that I saw was actually in Halifax.
Oh, cool.
And again, I was like quite smitten because this was like at the beginning of a drag journey, and you're just like these people. Like, I'm obsessed with the fact that people are like completely transforming who they are. I remember I think it was maybe like, gosh, the 10th time I did makeup. It was like quite a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I actually don't know who I am now. Where like the other times I was like, oh, okay, I just look like someone with stuff on their face.
And then you look like someone totally different the 10th time.
The red lipstick. It really,
that's what brought it out of you, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can even relate to that a little bit. I did drag once.
Oh, whoa.
I know, it was so much fun.
Nice.
Like with a little mustachio and etc. I loved it.
Wow.
Something came out of me. This man. I feel like I did really trailer park drag in the sense like I had a jean cutoff jacket. So it was like a vest, and he was a look. But once you do it for the first time, at least for me, I was like, I know what this dude is going to wear moving forward. And it is very much not that. So excited to do it again.
I would say that gives me very Alberta vibes.
I know, which was so funny because I painted a Filipino flag on the back of that jacket. So it was like my two parts. Let's go.
Wow, I would love to see that character in Lethbridge.
I mean,
that would be...
I'm just so scared because I can't dance. I did spoken word as my like talent in drag, which was really fun. But I can dance in my bedroom, but on a stage, it's a bit different.
Kels, I literally just had that experience last night. I was like, oh, I'm going to plan this little dance number in my kitchen. Went up on stage, was like, I don't remember any of this. Decided to like rip off my gloves and do like a handstand on the wall because I was just like, I don't remember my routine.
Diva.
I don't know what to do right now.
I mean, but you improvise, right?
Yes. But I imagine you would too. I feel like.
I hope so. I cannot just freeze on a stage. But that's like another thing that's so impressive about drag. And it's funny that you say you kind of like had to improvise in the moment because I've seen you dance and I've seen you do your thing and it's always amazing.
It's very sweet.
It's
very
true.
Sweet,
it's very true.
I think that's like the one thing that I would love for my drag to evolve to is just like maybe like a more finesse to the dancing. Because that is like such a skill that I feel like is so hard to.
Do you want to take some dance classes together? Is that what's happening?
Kels, yes, sign me up. And then your character can really come to.
I mean, I think we're plotting something
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
Poppy. This is something bigger than Queer in Alberta right now.
Yeah, very excited for the future.
Me
That's
too.
for sure.
So we talk about New Brunswick, which I never expected is kind of like this catapulting you into drag. But you're not originally from Lethbridge, but a smaller town outside of Lethbridge, right? Enchant?
Yes. Yeah.
How big is Enchant for
I
people that
know.
haven't heard of it?
I want to say it's maybe like 200 to 50.
Period.
Yeah. So I think it's sitting at constant 200 to 50.
That's so funny because like I always tell people I'm from a very small town. I grew up around the Bonnyville Cold Lake region, if you know where that is. Yeah. But that's even like 5,000 people, you know?
Yeah. A city.
It's a city, a metropolis. 200, 250. Were you like, how do you even have that experience of like coming out and et cetera? What is the story there? I can imagine there is one.
Yeah. I think it's like, because I think there's always that question of like, when did you know?
Totally.
And I think I kind of knew at a young age that I was like queer. Specifically, I would say like gay. I think I kind of saw that. But honestly, for the entirety of my time in my small town, did not at all even think about the possibility
Didn't
of
open that door.
not even of coming out, but even like thinking that I maybe was, even though it was like very obvious to like me, and I'm pretty sure others that I was gay.
Clocked it a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
But it was like so weird because it was just like never, not something mentioned. I think the only things mentioned about gayness was just like how wrong it was.
Oh, I hear you.
So I think it was just like, even though it was there was for sure some knowing in this like little kid's body, just never really able to like articulate it to anyone, and even to like myself, because it was just like then admitting that something was like wrong with me.
I think that's interesting to me because it's a similar experience, but also a little different for me. I think other people in my life maybe picked on the fact that I was gay or not into men in the same way my friends were when we were teenagers, especially. But for me, being so isolated, it was like there was no representation. So I didn't have the language or even the imagery in media or anything to know that that was a possible way to live or a way to be. It was always like you just had to be straight and like heteronormative and all these sorts of things in such a small environment for me. I didn't even know until I was like 17 and kind of had that whole like, oh my goodness, coming of age awakening, you know? I was totally in the dark.
Do you remember like seeing your first like queer person or representation either on film or in person?
That's so interesting. You know, for me, this is going to be so random, but I think the first queer couple I ever saw, my family went on vacation to Disneyland when I was like 10 or something.
Yeah.
So this is long before gay marriage is even legal in the
Right,
United States. We were waiting on like the tramway from Disneyland to go back to the hotel. And there was just a gay couple in front of me. And I remember just staring and being like a little honestly homophobic inwardly, because that's where I came from and the values that were around me. But it stuck with me. I remember seeing it and being like, I've never seen this before. This is different. And I thought there was that, you know, stereotype of how I was supposed to react to that. But of course, here we are now and everything makes a bit more sense.
Right.
What about you?
I think mine, again, very similar, like traveling
Yeah.
would have been. And I think it was when we went to Paris as a family. And there was just like what I would say is like a very obvious queer looking individual on the subway. Yeah, very similar. Transportation.
Isn't that interesting? Transportation. That's when you see the gays.
Yeah.
You gotta leave
Yeah.
beyond the boundaries of 200 people and
Yes.
chat. That's funny.
Yeah. And just being like so infatuated by this person. Like, I cannot believe someone can look like so fabulous. Really did
Yeah.
like the like I want to look like this at one point in my life.
That's cool.
But then yes, returned to Enchant and did not.
And repressed
Yeah.
and yada yada.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And you know, Poppy, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast, but it was actually a drag queen who taught me how to talk to women when I was like 18.
Oh wow.
Oh my God. It was
my
at
God.
Twisted in Calgary. I went for the first time because like at that point I'd realized I was gay. But then it's like, what do you do? with that information? How do you talk to somebody, flirt with people, or even make friends? Like, it was a whole new learning experience. And there's this drag queen. She just looked fantastic in the bathroom. And these other girls went up to her and they were chatting. And I was like, okay, she's friendly, cool. So I go up to her and I was like, can I ask you like a question? And she's like, kind of, what do you want? And I was like, how do you talk to girls? And this drag queen, full on makeup, just melts in front of me. And she's like, oh, honey. And she goes, you know, I'm a guy, right? And I'm like, yes, I know. I just need help. And then she kind of, you know, set me on my way. So I always big love for drag queens.
Yeah. What a nice like bridge of gap. How you use like this drag queen who looks like a woman to be like, how do you speak to?
How do you do it, bestie? And they totally took me under their wing. So wherever you are, you made a huge impact on my life. Like, yeah.
That is very sweet.
But we were talking about Enchant and perhaps the lack of representation there. You had even in previous conversation with me mentioned how you didn't fully come out until you left Enchant and you were on a mission. Is that true?
Yes. I think my first like queer experience was on this mission. But I think like, again, coming out, because I went to Vancouver to do this mission when I was 20. And it was like, yeah, my first time leaving Enchant in like a significant way for like a summer.
And what faith did you follow, Poppy? Or are you still practicing?
I wouldn't say, no. I would say I'm in a tiff with religion at this point.
Relatable.
I think that happened also in New Brunswick, actually. And
New Brunswick is the place. It's where it's happening.
Yeah, don't love spending time alone. You do learn a lot about yourself in those moments. No, Catholic, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was a Catholic mission. And I would say like back in Enchant, we were very involved. Like my family was with the Catholic Church. Like I think that's where a lot of our community came from. A lot of like my friends as well.
Yeah, it's so enmeshed.
And then going on this mission, I think was like really big for me as an individual because it was like the first time I felt loved. There was just like really incredible people on that mission. And they just like, yeah, it made me feel very valued for just being me.
Wow.
Which was like the first time. And I don't know if it was like because kind of feeling queer in this small town and really having to like, I would say like just you're repressing almost all of yourself.
Yes.
Like the jokes that you say, you're like, oh no, maybe these are like will out me, like the way that you walk, the way that you talk. So I feel like being able to go to Vancouver was just this time of being like, honestly, being able to use the church for no one to like accuse me of being gay, which was like a very like opening experience because I was like, cool, no one will think I'm gay here if I'm Catholic. So then I can just like be who I am. People really appreciated me for that. And I like, yeah, made a lot of good friends. And then the first person who I then did come out to was someone on the mission at a year later.
And how did that go, Poppy? Was it okay?
It was so beautiful.
Oh,
yeah.
good. I'm relieved.
Yeah.
It can go either way, right?
It very much so. I think like and this is where it's just like such a testament to these people as like people. They were so lovely. Like this one, there's a girl named Jen Lobo. I like will forever remember. Yeah. And it was one of those times where, it's on the phone. I'm telling her and then I'm crying and then I'm like, wow. I can take this back just so we all know. I did not take this back. But it was just like it was an incredible like person to have as my first person to come out to. And she was like with me for like that entire year where I didn't come out to like anyone else except for her, and just like would have conversations with her about it for that entire time. And I I'm very grateful for her to be there for me for a whole flippin' year, just having to listen to me navigate
Jen
this.
Lobo, icon diva supreme.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yes, we're talking about Catholicism and how you were actually able to find yourself by leaving your hometown because of this mission. Even though you were still practicing your faith, it kind of opened the door for this queer understanding. Like, that's kind of interesting. Yeah,
I was very excited and appreciative to like have that summer. Yeah, very
It's
foundational.
always a summer.
Yeah.
It always is.
I feel like there's always those moments in life where you're like, yes, there was the person who I was, and then this experience happened. And I would say for me, it's usually like month-long experiences as opposed to like a moment. 2 summers later, after graduating from university, was when I had another summer where I worked for another government organization in Alberta that would go to different Indigenous communities, and you'd spend the summer there doing like programming for youth. And I feel like that was kind of the first time leaving the church setting and having like still strong community and like feeding all of these things that I cared about. But then it was this summer where it was almost like, whoa, there can be a different purpose in life that isn't like necessarily religion. And being able to find like everything that I loved about the Catholic Church, purpose, community, passion in this summer with like new community, kind of like new purpose in terms of like moving away from like my small town colonial mindset to like, something bigger. You understood that the world...
There's more ways to be in the world,
Yes.
more ways to live, to experience. And, you know, you touching on this, because you have that master's of social work, right?
Yes. Yeah.
An educated queen, incredible. But it also contextualizes a lot of what I see from your drag. Because as we said at the very beginning of this interview, almost every time I've seen you perform, Poppy, you've either given a land acknowledgement. Yes, there's criticism of a land acknowledgement and what it does, but I love that you still make that effort to learn. And you always share knowledge when you do it, beyond just the words. And then your drag is also sometimes very political, which is really interesting. So I always notice these things about you on the stage, because it's more than just a head-turning look. There's always a message with what you do.
Yes. Yeah. I think like telling a story is my absolute favorite part of drag. I think I heard it once from a drag queen in Victoria where I did my master's and really took that to heart. And whenever I do a performance that doesn't have a story, I always feel very unfulfilled by the performance. I just feel like it wasn't the best work that I could have given. Yeah. Like some of my favorite, I feel like pieces are like, I'm obsessed with Florence and the Machine, and I feel like her music works so well with like anything like political. Like I do a song called King, and it's like, I will say I think that they are stories, and I do love doing them, and they're also very draggy. Like there's draggy, yes. They're very campy. Like I'm, as much as I really am trying to send home like this message, I also am still wanting it to be like, this is drag. Like first and foremost, like well, the message is so important. Like the message through drag is something that I really enjoy sharing. And in King, it's like I start off as maybe like this more like hyper femme queen who then like ends up kind of literally removing the garments. Right. To kind of reveal like more of this like badass woman who is like destroying the patriarchy. And like, what does the patriarchy kind of have roots in? It's like colonialism is that like overarching thing. So like patriarchy stems from colonialism. Then you have like transphobia stems from so it's just like kind of like to destroy or to like stop the patriarchy, transphobia, homophobia, you like really need to go to the root, which is like colonialism. And I feel like I enjoy trying to convey all of that.
And this is why drag performers are artistes, bestie. Like that is so amazing and complex. Like you should feel very proud to be able to put something together like that.
It is one of my favorite numbers. I am, yeah.
It is my fave. It's my best one.
Anything with a Florence and the Machine, I feel like will really hit home for me. Because there's another Florence and the Machine number where it's like very similar, where I'm trying to reiterate that like mental health cannot be like supported in carceral systems. It's another like another number that I enjoy telling a story. But then some of them, they're just campy.
Yes.
Like
I always, you know what, actually, for some reason, when you were coming in and we were waiting for you, I heard Single Soon by Selena Gomez in my head from your Halloween performance. That's a campy, fun performance that you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like just last night, I was doing Defying Gravity
Love.
by Adina Menzel, but giving like a plastic surgery moment, as in like I'm defying gravity in the sense of like preventing wrinkles. Very campy still, enjoyable. And yes, I think it's always important to have something that's also political or like impactful.
Yes. And, you know, it's so exciting to have, like, we have some amazing queens here in the city. Like, of course, we talked about Francesca. She's doing her, I feel like, world tour all the time, performing from east to west in Canada. Yeah. But we also have the girls that you perform with for Babes and Brews at Theoretically. Do you want to maybe shout out them a bit and share some of them?
Oh, gosh. I feel like, would not be able to do the drag in the city without like the support of these other like drag sisters, and that's Dana Demento.
Yes, we love Dana. Yeah. I worked with Dana, so I'm biased.
I feel like, yes, she gives you such a like almost divine
class
aesthetic.
Act every time.
Very punk, very underground, and I just love that she's like, being celebrated for how cool she is. And then my other sister who I do Babes and Brews with is Brandy Jane.
Yes, Brandy.
She gave me this purse here.
Oh, no way.
I feel like she outfits me so completely and is like beautifully honest in like the support that she gives, and also just like she's not a no. She will always say yes to whatever I want to do, no matter like the time constraint, and even if it makes her late, which I fully appreciate.
Wow, a giving queen.
Yes, very grateful for the two of them to be able to, have such a like a gorgeous community event.
Yes, totally.
People are coming out to, which I really appreciate as well.
Yeah, and I think like, of course, with this series, we discuss the stereotypes of being queer in Alberta. But I think in Southern Alberta, and particularly in Lethbridge, maybe there's some stereotypes that we don't have drag, or it's not happening here. But here you three are amongst many other performers that we have not listed. There's some amazing drag kings in the city as well. Like, what's up with that? We're here. We're queer. We're turning it out.
Yeah. No, I'm like, because I was in Lethbridge, I guess like 6 years ago. And not queer, not really even noticing queer.
Yes.
And then sure, maybe like I've come back and like being queer, you notice queer more, but there's just like, you see things like Wigs and Waffles on the...
This is another great drag show in the city.
Yeah, on the sidewalks. And you're like, oh, okay, like, queer is fully present in the city. Like, just take a walk around downtown and you're seeing...
Gay everywhere. We're here.
Yeah, and I do really appreciate, like, Lethbridge for that. It's a small community of, like, queers, but I think we're really, like, doing the work, which I, appreciate. And it's, like, should not go unnoticed by the folks who maybe are thinking like Lethbridge doesn't have that much.
Exactly. So. Yeah. We're here to say something about those stereotypes. Have you seen Poppy? A moment for the look again, please.
Wow, thank
you so much. She's getting her modeling contract.
Wow. If only.
But, you know, I do have a question brimming on my mind as you've been speaking. Would you ever, like, again, this could be an easy no, but would you ever think about performing in Enchant? Is that a possibility? Be kind of crazy, wouldn't it?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, I probably at this stage. Wow. Really good question.
That's what I'm here for.
I think I would do it for like, let's say it's like one person's like bachelorette party.
Oh, very interesting.
I think I would love to do it in like a small capacity. I think I would love to do it in a large one, but also I know that like I very much so ran away from like Enchant, small town, like even Lethbridge. I didn't even feel like very comfortable coming out in Lethbridge. So I think like kind of coming back, I've been back now for a year. I'm like kind of navigating these old relationships that I had, and I just don't feel, I know that there's like some sort of block, or like I feel very hesitant to reconnect with old folks who for like years and years and years didn't know me necessarily as queer. And I don't even know what I'm looking for in, like, I don't know if what I want is for me to like say, hi, like I'm back. And they're like, you're gay now. I'm like, but I also don't fully enjoy when it's not addressed or said, and just kind of like seamlessly as if we didn't skip a beat. Because I feel like a lot has happened for me since the time running away.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I always joke, and it's not a joke, it's real, that it's kind of like two spheres of my life. There's the time when I was living in Bonnyville in the Lakeland until I was 17, and then everything that came after when I moved to Lethbridge. It's so funny that you say you didn't feel like it was easy to come out in Lethbridge, because for me, moving here is what enabled me to come out from leaving that environment. But those spheres of my life, so rarely do they touch. Like maybe I go home for Christmas or something and see my family, and then it's like I'm out here to everyone. But back there, like with many of my extended relatives, like my titas and my titos, my aunts and uncles, they don't know. I've never had that conversation. So yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say, but it's an interesting experience of, I understand a little bit, I guess, where you don't want to dive back into that necessarily when it was so different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I almost like don't even know if I want the two
to touch.
Yeah.
I know that's how I feel. You might find this interesting. A friend of mine, she is Two-Spirit and Cree, and she was saying from her perspective and with her culture, it's really important that those spheres do touch because they make up who you are. And so she might come on the show at some point, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm like, girl, I'm not ready for it. Like, I've been avoiding it for so long.
Yeah, I will definitely be wanting to listen to that knowledge.
She's fun. She's really fun. She actually is in the Lakeland where I grew up. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's like a conversation for those of us that grew up in small towns and left. How do we navigate those spaces?
Yeah. Because I think like small towns, I feel like there's such joy from living in small communities.
Yeah.
With like the sense that you like really know everyone and everyone like knows you, and you like, there's like a sense of care for the community that I feel like you of course like don't really get in a larger city, and like the support that you'll give a family like during death that like in a city it just doesn't like happen as much. So I really like would love the idea of going back to a small town and like living my life in a small town. But every time I like actually think that through, it feels very
scary,
lonely. Yeah. Wouldn't want to almost be like a show just in my like mere existence. And I'm certain small communities, like I know of small communities. Like I feel like Dawson City up in the Yukon is one where like very small, very close, and also like I feel like folks can be very queer. And
yes, yeah, and I think that's another interesting thing. Like we have this idea of small town life in Alberta that's both recent, like in terms of our experiences. We both lived in small towns ultimately not that long ago, but amazing how much things have changed in some of them. Did you hear about how in Ponoka, which it's in central Alberta, there was a bakery there that is like hosting pride nights and etc. And this is a very conservative community. That's where my father is from. And of course there's a whole kerfluffle in the news and yada yada yada, but the point is these spaces are starting to change a bit. And I think that's really inspiring, especially for youth that maybe were like you and I.
Yes.
Gives them a bit more opportunity.
And on that note, I feel like I should say yes to performing.
Hey, my agenda, my gay agenda achieved.
My mind has changed. I'm ready, Enchant. Sign me up.
Boom. I love it. She's coming with the party bus, the wig.
Me and a bus. That's it. I can picture it now.
I love it. But, as we're kind of closing the interview today, I kind of am wondering, here you are sitting in drag, living your life vibrantly and proudly, sharing a message with the performances that you do. Is there anything you would maybe say to your younger self who was in Enchant and not in this space quite yet?
Gosh, I find that tough. I think like the situation that I was in to my younger self where, there wasn't any queer people in the town. I wish I would be able to go back to my younger self and say like, be your authentic self. But I think like even when I tried to be my authentic self, it was really shut down throughout that entire time. So I think it would just be like one of those cliches of like that it would get better.
You did know. Yeah.
I always kind of understood that like eventually I will be leaving this place when I'm ready. I don't think I fully understood that I would like be embracing queer as much as, because I think it like the stages for sure, and probably because of religion, was one of like accepting who I was as like a queer person, but maybe not accepting the fact that I would be deserving of a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I think those were two Like I came out as like gay to my family and felt like quite comfortable doing that. Still like very comfortable being able to say that's who I am. But I feel like it like still has taken me a while to accept that I can be in a relationship. And I feel like that was even like very evident for like quite a while. I couldn't even like say my boyfriend. I would just be like the
they
boyfriend
or whatever.
Just couldn't like possess the individual as someone who was in my life. And I think like a lot of difficulty in like navigating being in a relationship because just really don't feel like maybe I should be in one. What was the question again?
No, like we were asking about what you would tell your younger self, but you went on a bit of a tangent. It's true.
Yeah, I think it would just be, I would remind my younger self like, yeah, you're right. It gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll make it out of that and it'll be like, fine. Maybe I would love to say something to my younger self about the two spheres, about trying to lay ground to accept that like the two sides of yourself can come together. Because I would say in my family feel very open, just like in the community, have really severed those ties. So maybe I'd try and advise my younger self to like invest in the relationships that are present there and don't be scared to like come back to them. Well, maybe I would tell my younger self something I feel like I'm telling my older self now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dual conversation.
Not very meta.
That's funny. But, as you were saying that, I think I'm actually, for so many reasons, I'm happy to have chatted with you today. But it's something to chat with somebody who, even though your small town is the real deal and mine's a bit bigger, like there are things about that experience that I think shaped both of us for the better. Like you're saying, community and the way we care for each other. I attribute a lot of that to a cultural lens for me, but also it does come from being in smaller places. And would I want to go back? Probably not, but I'm so grateful for that time there because it made me today, just as I feel it made you who you are.
Yeah, and I feel like, there's like some great priorities that kind of come out from the experience of small town living. Yeah, you get like quiet, which I feel like is an undervalued existence.
Oh, I thought you just meant like geographically, because I'm like, it's silent out there. There's nothing.
Yes, the cliches.
Cliches.
Hanging outside, all of that stuff.
Poppy is a nature girl.
Yeah.
Well, Poppy, as we are wrapping up our episode, how would you like for audiences to keep in touch with you? Do you have any social media that you want to share over here to this camera? Any fun projects?
I think I would just save to come out to the drag shows in Lethbridge. Yeah, there's Babes and Brews, which is at Theoretically Brewing, and that's a monthly show. They are undergoing
Renos.
Yes,
Renos.
which is very exciting to make it a bigger space. But we'll be there. We're very excited to be able to perform at Theoretically Brewing with this incredible pizza, this incredible beer, this incredible community.
Can I ask you a quick question about that show? I've had somebody, a parent, ask me because he has a son who is queer and wanting to get involved in community. Are those shows open for underage audiences or no?
I would probably suggest no.
No? Okay.
I would say it could be like a 16 plus, but I would not say they are for
kids.
Youths.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely the Wigs and Waffles brunch. So those are I would just come to one of my drag shows.
Say you saw Poppy's episode on Queer in Alberta, that you're their biggest fan.
Yes. I'm also on Instagram at Poppy Puffter, Puffter.
Ooh, yes. I gotta get that right.
Yes, and it's slang. Puffter? Do you know the origins of Puffter?
No, but I'm about to be educated.
Nice. It's like my name originally, I wanted it as Poppy Putain. Because Putain is French for like...
That's gonna be a good bleep. I like the side eye. It was good.
But this is when I was obsessed with France and French and thought I was going to be. Yeah. Then I realized I am not. I am quite like English. So then I switched to the slang of Puffter, which is like.
Oh my God,
UK.
I'm learning so much. I never knew that.
So I just enjoyed how it's like, it's quite tame here, Puffter. It sounds very like cute and Powerpuff Girl-esque, but yeah, really it's
You're so smart, Poppy.
slangy.
Eat that up. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm so glad to be doing this show to share voices from across Alberta, but there's something extra special getting to talk to a Lethbridge queen. You know what I mean?
Yes. Love being able to just like drive over here and
so easy. Subiksha, who was here earlier, 2-hour drive or whatever.
Right. Just being able to like, chat with you is absolutely lovely.
Yeah. And, I think your story is going to inspire those kids in small towns because inevitably they're going to listen. And seeing someone like you look at what you've done, what you continue to do every day with your performances and with, I think, just your personal philosophy, I'm very inspired too.
Kels, thank you so much. Wow.
Hey, Bakla. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Queer in Alberta. And like I said at the beginning, if you are loving the series and want to support making season 3 the biggest and baddest one we've had yet, you can definitely support if you are able by going to buymeacoffee/queerinalberta. A huge shout out, a round of applause and standing ovation to Poppy Puffter. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio and braving those prairie conditions, losing a wig to the top of a truck. Really said Berta, just like full big stamp on forehead. Loved it. I truly feel like she is such a beacon in our community in the ways that she amplifies knowledge, talent, and just community queer spaces. So big love for Poppy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now this is the part where we do our Hey Bakla Q&A. Our Hey Bakla question was, if you were going to go into drag, what would your drag name be? And we got some very fun submissions. I'm going to go through them here. So Meg from Lethbridge said Eggy Blonde, which I'm here for. I love it. It's giving like the golden egg in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's all I see. Someone else said Napoleon Champagne, Roy G. Biv, Miss Terry, like the Mystery Machine. There were so many good submissions this week. I think my favorites, though, included Poppy, who shared Fanny Growler, as well as my friend Alyssa in Edmonton, who said Panakin Skywalker. That one was very, very fun. I could see it in HD. Those are just a few of the amazing and funny options that people gave me for your future drag name. So thinking about Poppy and her episode, we touch on the importance of the Babes and Brews show and specifically the space as well. It is so, I think, important to have those queer third spaces if there's not like a designated queer bar in your city. I want to know about those places that are in your community. Tell me what your favorite queer space is, whether it is a bar, maybe it is a cafe that does queer coffee nights. I want to know about what spaces exist in Alberta and where they are. You can answer this week's Hey Bakla question on my Instagram at kels.valendela, KELS.VALENDELA. Instagram is honestly the easiest because every Wednesday following a new episode, I post a story Q&A with the same question that I'm giving you here in the episode. You have the opportunity to directly submit your answer there and then have me read it on the next episode of the show. And as always, no matter where you are listening from in the world today, I hope you are feeling celebrated, seen, and loved for the beautiful person that you are. But Pride is every day, 365 days a year, no matter what major corporation's logo changes on July 1st. Next week's episode is featuring the first guest to return for an episode of Queer in Alberta. She was the first person that I ever interviewed on the show. Get ready to hear from beloved and fan favorite Michelle. It was really special and honestly a little emotional to connect for both of us after so much time and so much has changed from that very first interview. Okay, I will see you next time. Bye!